78-72. And nothing new for the men's team as McCluskey and Covington did the majority of the scoring for the men. So, like I said before, it's nothing new for this team. It's been a constant same news throughout the entire season, and that's Malik or Covington or both, or not. That's Malik, McCluskey and Covington or both do the majority of the scoring. And they also allowed 49 points in the first half, but they did counter that with 45 points in the second half, but they still fell short either way.
They actually had a huge come from behind early in the second half. They showed up and they had a very impressive come from behind. Michael Dion was doing a great job on the call for the Leathernecks, and he was really showing the emotion of what was happening, because I was listening to it on the radio, and it was just a very, very good game. Unfortunately, the Leathernecks were not able to pull it off, but it did show some heart on the team for them to come back.
They did have a lead late in the second half with like 3 minutes left, but they did squander that with like maybe a minute left in the game.
Yeah, they're like the opposite of the women's team. The women's team is very good at closing games out, but the men have not been this season.
And it's been the same story for the entire season. I keep on saying that, but I'm sorry, but it's been the same story. They cannot close out games. They have two people doing the majority of the scoring. Maybe one or two games this season, someone else stepped up, but for the entire season, it's just been a two-man show.
Yeah, it's a little bit like my favorite basketball team, Wisconsin, in a way, which is unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. And right now, they're sitting 5-8 in the Summit League, and they still sit in second to last.
So they will make the tournament if this keeps up.
They will make the tournament. Well, let's hope so first, but we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, with this team, basically anything can happen.
Because right now, they're just right above Oral Roberts at 4. Because Oral Roberts has a 4-10 conference record. Meanwhile, Western Illinois has a 5-8 record, and right now they're tied with IUPUI and South Dakota State just right ahead of them.
Yeah, they better hope Oral Roberts keeps losing, or they win a big game soon, or else they won't make the tournament. That would be very, very disappointing.
And who knows what could happen in the tournament? Even though they're doing, I want to say, pretty poorly this entire season, but if they do win the Summit League and get into the national tournament, that's going to be a huge Cinderella story for us.
I think that'd be even bigger than a Cinderella story at this point.
The men's team getting into the tournament and winning it. Well, I'm just going to be 100% honest here. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we all know that's probably not going to happen.
Hey, anything's possible.
Anything's possible. It is March. Crazier things have happened in March.
They have been
something even more crazier.
It's not March yet.
Well, yeah, but the tournament will happen in March.
Well, but the men's team has been very inconsistent. Again, we talk about this every week. They've beaten Fort Wayne before, but as it goes on, they just cannot close out games. But there is a team that can close out games, and we'll get there in a second. But first, right now they're 5-8 in the Summit League, and overall their next game is at North Dakota State this Saturday. And their next home game, which you can hear right here on 88.3 The Dog and ESPN3, is against South Dakota at Western Hall, 7 p.m. on February 23rd.
And these next 3 games are going to be very, very crucial, because if they drop all 3 games and Oral Roberts does win 1 or 2, then they're not going to see the Summit League tournament. Their next 3 opponents, obviously we said 2 of them, North Dakota State, South Dakota, and then the final game will be at home at Fort Wayne or against Fort Wayne.
And if Western doesn't win any of those games and Oral Roberts wins 1, Western still has a tiebreaker, correct?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't know what the season record was. I think they do base it off of overall record. And in that case, Oral Roberts, hold on, let's see here. It's fairly close in the overall record. Because right now Western has an 8-16 overall and Oral Roberts is an 8-20. Even though the winning percentage is heavily favored for Western, who knows what's going to happen.
And is there anything else you guys want to say on men's basketball?
No.
So going on to some big news. The women's team here soundly defeated. Well, first let's go to the smaller news. They beat Denver 80-68. Morgan Bloomer led the team with 22 points. But the game after that, Western Hall was packed because they were playing South Dakota, who had the same record in the Summit League as them.
South Dakota State,
who had the same record as they did in the Summit League. And Western, a couple things happened here. First of all, Emily Clemens entered the 1,000-point club, so congratulations to Emily.
And she's a junior, too.
And she's just a junior. She has a chance to be maybe the greatest women's basketball player in Leatherneck history.
I think she's definitely up there for sure.
And, there are other players on the team. Morgan Bloomer, who it could be possibly the best scorer or three-point shooter in Leatherneck history. She, this year, passed the three-point record for a single season for the women's team.
I think it's pretty safe to say that's been a golden era for this Leathernecks team.
Well, golden year anyway.
Yeah.
But it was a close game. Leathernecks were down, and South Dakota State was down. It went back and forth quite a bit throughout the game. And they were, as I said, they were both fighting for a spot atop the Summit League. Western ended up winning this game 83-77, giving them a one-game advantage over South Dakota State. And Western, as that kind of goes into, Western is currently first in the Summit League. And there's only 2 games left before the Summit League tournament, so they control their own destiny.
Yeah, they're in the Summit League tournament either way, but now it's a matter of what seed are they going to get. Are they going to be on top and get a easier team to compete against?
I think going into it, they've got to be the favorite at this point because they've been so hot as of late.
I mean, their next 2 games will be against Fort Wayne, who is currently dead last in the Summit, and then South Dakota, who that's going to be another huge game because they're second place in the Summit League.
And the one thing, I was talking to somebody earlier in the day about this. So at Western, the men's soccer team, and I know this sounds a little random, but the men's soccer team has been the most consistent team at Western Illinois. And overall, now this women's team's coming up saying that Western Illinois is not just this one consistent team. Everything in Western Illinois has been changing. The football team is starting to play better, not near the end of the year, but they've been more consistent. The women's team now looks like they have a very bright future, as almost all of their starters are returning next season.
That is maybe a couple seniors leaving, but yeah, most of the stars will return.
Well, all the seniors are leaving.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, Kyle. Anyway, but overall, it's Western. Their athletics have been really stepping up, and if Western's women's can win this Summit League tournament coming up, they're going to be the first team in the history of Western Illinois, or basketball, to make the NCAA tournament, March Madness, and that is huge.
It's going to be very, very huge to see this Lebanon team in a national spotlight, and I would die to see that.
It would be awesome seeing them on national TV.
Let's just hope they don't have to play UConn.
Yeah, let's not hope that, because UConn, and congrats to UConn, by the way, getting 100 wins. I'm not sure I said that last week.
There's never been a more dominant team in any sports history than this UConn women's team.
There's no way anybody can argue with that. But Western, it's been such a great year for the women's team here, and it's, there have been just moments. Morgan Bloomer's shot, this unbelievable run by Clemens, getting double-double after double-double earlier in the season. Bloomer, like I said, with her unbelievable three-point shooting. Everybody on this team can shoot three-point shots. And that was what makes them so dangerous. I remember going in earlier, I was talking to their play-by-play on ESPN3, Zach Martin. He was telling me, and this is before the season even started, before these hopes became reality. This is what this team does. They shoot three-point shots. And if they're consistent, any team that shoots three-point shots is going to be successful.
Well, unfortunately, that is the complete opposite of the men's team.
Well, the men's team can't shoot free throws at all. So, I mean, if you can't shoot free throws, you can't shoot threes.
That's not really how it works, but
well,
I know where you're getting at.
You know what I'm saying. But let's not talk about the sad news. Let's keep talking about the good news. And it's just going to be totally – it's just – I keep repeating myself, but it's just so great to see a Western team have such success, especially in our freshman year. All of us are freshmen. And we came in, Western wasn't known for their athletics necessarily. But we came in, and now we're seeing this great team, and that's giving us, as fans, hope for the years to come, no matter what happens at the end of this year.
Yeah, there was a huge crowd for that game against South Dakota State on Tuesday.
I think it was either Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm not really entirely sure.
But still, probably one of the biggest crowds that's ever been in Leatherneck Gym.
It was Wednesday.
Yeah,
because,
Wednesday.
Kyle, we had a music test on Thursday.
That's true.
That's why we didn't go to the game. We had to watch it on TV.
Non-supporters.
Did you go to the game, Max?
I did.
Oh, wait, you did?
Yeah, it was a very good game.
Oh. Excuse
us then. But then, we talk about the men's team having only 2 players on their team that would do the majority of the scoring. This women's team is a complete opposite. We did say this over and over since the show even started, but this women's team, if one person does not step up to the plate, then she's got a whole group behind her just to pick up the load.
Yeah, you could say they're like the Warriors of the Summit League. They have just scores everywhere on the court.
And that one's been very, very dangerous coming into the Summit League tournament is there's not really that many fatal flaws to this team. There's no one way to attack this team.
But this team is a team that hasn't really had much experience in this setting. You don't know how they're going to react in the Summit League tournament.
Yeah, because like we said for the men's, anything can happen. Who knows? Maybe Denver does upset Western Illinois if they do get the number 1 spot. Anything can happen.
Western has lost games. They're not invincible.
Yeah, they're not. They've lost 3 games in the conference.
The only team that I would call invincible in all of sports is UConn.
Yeah, they've been dominant for the many, many years.
So Western is not UConn. They're a very good team, but they're not UConn.
Even UConn has some fatal flaws. They did lose the national tournament.
All teams do have flaws, and there's nothing you can really do about that.
UConn's one of the teams, though, where they're going to get everybody's best shot, and sometimes it's not even close to being enough. But if they happen to be against a good team who has good shooters, as Western, if Western shoots lights out, they have a chance against anyone.
They do have a chance against anyone. You're right about that. But if they do want to win the Summit League, they got to keep on doing what got them here in the first place. Right on top is shoot shoot threes, shoot the mid-range, convert your free throws, play excellent defense, and if you do all of that, then you'll be in the national tournament.
I think they can actually get past a couple rounds if they play as well as they have been lately.
Who knows? Anything can happen. I'm sounding like a broken record, but anything can happen.
And this is just an astonishing stat. You look at Western Illinois this year, they're averaging 80.3 points a game, 80.5 points per game. Their opposition's averaging 66.7 points a game.
Which is very impressive because offense can win you games, but defense wins you championships. So that's very good. That's a very good stat for Western.
And it's only a matter of can they keep that stat up? Can they keep on doing that? If they keep on doing that, then they're going to win easily. I'm saying easily if they do that.
Does Emily Clemens have a chance for Summit League Player of the Year?
I think she has a good shot. Her or Bloomer, actually.
Without a doubt.
Well, right now Clemens is averaging 18 points a game roughly, and she's averaging 6.8 assists per game. And Bloomer, on the other hand, is averaging 17 points a game.
But you got to remember how she was performing in the beginning of the season. She was lights out. She was the only scorer for that team in the beginning of the season when they're playing teams like Mizzou and Marquette. NIU, they played amazing games.
Wait, are you talking about Bloomer?
I'm talking about Emily Clemens.
Yeah, I was going to say Emily Clemens because I just mentioned Bloomer, so I wasn't sure who you were talking about at this point. But it really is a great story, and we'll see how that goes on. Western has 2 games left. We'll see what happens. And Max, we have more college stuff to talk about, not Western related.
All right, this segment is going to be called Max's March Madness. I'm going to talk about 3 things every week. I'm usually going to talk about Wisconsin basketball since that is my favorite team. And I'm going to talk about who's legit and not legit. And right now I'm going to talk a little about Wisconsin because what is wrong with them? As of late, they've been only averaging just above 50 points each game. And Ethan Happ has actually been carrying the scoring load. The past 8 games, he is averaging over 18 points, and the next highest scorer is 8 points, and that's been Nigel Hayes. But Nigel Hayes and Bronson Kane, they need to step up their game because they can't rely on Ethan to do everything, although he's been playing very well lately. He's not a very good shooter, and if you're a college team and you're not a very good three-point shooting team, you're not going to get far at all. So in that case, Bronson Kane, they need to start being more aggressive because he's been injured as of late, to be completely fair. But lately, he's been shooting like 3 or 4 shots a game, and he's made maybe 1, and so that's not a good equation for Wisconsin for winning. And Nigel Hayes, he's just been down all year. He's had all the preseason accolades, preseason Big Ten Player of the Year, preseason All-American, but he's only averaging about 7 points a game, or not 7, like 11 points a game, and 6 rebounds, and it's just not good enough for Wisconsin. Wisconsin will not make it far in the tournament if they keep his play up, and the reason why they've been losing lately is because of that, because no one's been stepping up.
So is Ethan Happ the only player on that Wisconsin team that actually does something?
Lately, yes, because last night he had 18 points in the first half, and they started double teaming in the second half, and you would kick it out to shooters, and they wouldn't be making their shots. So Wisconsin, and that's why Michigan ended up winning, because Michigan started making their shots and Wisconsin didn't.
So does that make a case for Ethan Happ to win National Player of the Year?
I'm not sure about National Player of the Year. He's in the top 7 or 8 right now in the rankings because he's been carrying the load the whole season. But I think he has a better shot at Big Ten Player of the Year than National Player of the Year, which would still be tough because Caleb Swanigan's averaging 18 and 12. But Ethan overall with assists, reboundings, and blocks, and points, and field goal percentage is leading the team in every single statistical category. He is the only player in the NCAA to do that. And so, if Wisconsin wants to win, I think Brevin Pritzel's got to come off the bench and shoot well. If Khalil Iverson plays like every game like he did last night, he scored 10 points off the bench and only averages 3 a game, then Wisconsin should be well off if everyone else steps up. But if he's the only player off the bench doing good things for Wisconsin, then they're not going to go far. All right, next I'm going to talk about a team that recently beat Wisconsin, which is Northwestern.
And you, baby?
Northwestern has never made the tournament in college basketball, but do you think this is the year?
No, I do not think this is the year because they lost to Illinois. That's the one fatal flaw I have with the team is they lose to Illinois.
But they beat Wisconsin and Purdue, the top two teams of the Big Ten.
Well, a lot of teams beat Wisconsin. Honestly, a lot.
Well, Wisconsin's lost 4
Western
games.
Illinois beat Wisconsin
Last year.
I know.
But and that was definitely a fluke because Wisconsin would end up going to Sweet 16 and
You know
Western
what?
lost like 8
Don't
games in a row
don't
after
don't take
that.
it away from Western.
I'm not. That was a very good win for them. That's a best win they've ever had in program history. But it didn't really shape up to be the season they thought it would be after that win.
Well, you take away that Wisconsin lost, they did also lose to Purdue, and those were both ranked teams. Or they didn't beat Wisconsin. Sorry, they did beat Wisconsin. They lost to Maryland and Purdue.
But they still beat the number 1 team in the conference, and they're 19-6 right now.
There's something like that, yeah.
Oh, if they're 19-6,
I don't think you can leave them out of the
No, you
tournament.
can't. This is another situation with there are going to be teams that are left out. It happens in all college sports, college football.
But this cannot be a team that can be left out.
And I look at this too. They had a 9-point victory over Rutgers.
Okay, but Wisconsin beat Rutgers by 1 in overtime. So Rutgers actually coming into Big Ten play was 12-1. So obviously they're not as bad. They're still pretty bad in the Big Ten, but they are not even close to being as bad as they were last year. And so I don't think you can really take away that win and just take it with a grain of salt. It doesn't mean much because they still won. But also in that game, that's a game where Ethan Happ had 32 points and shouldered the load for Wisconsin. Wisconsin scored 56 points total that game, and Ethan had 32 of them. So that's another example of him shouldering the load. But I think to answer this question, Connor, do you think Northwestern gets in?
I honestly haven't watched them enough to know, but judging by their record, 19-6, I would not be surprised if they get in. I know I have a lot of friends that go to Northwestern because I went to school in Evanston, Illinois, and it would be huge for Evanston, not just Northwestern, that entire city because they revolve around Northwestern. It would be huge.
I think it would be great for the program, great for the city of Chicago too. Finally getting a team that goes to the tournament.
I don't mean to interrupt you there, but Loyola in Chicago actually won the tournament, I believe, in the 60s.
Well, that was 50 years ago, so I mean that doesn't mean much now. But
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying it'd be the first time in a
Hey,
long time that the city of Chicago.
Every day driving to school, man, on the parking lot at Loyola University, you have to go right by there. They got the huge banner. They still pride it.
So I think it's a 2-1 vote because I think Northwestern gets in because they have a winning record in the Big Ten, which always bodes well because Big Ten's typically top 2 or 3 conference in the nation. Not this year, but typically.
I'm not saying that Northwestern will not make the tournament. I think they will make the tournament, but it'll be a very, very low seed, maybe like a 14, 13 seed.
I think they get a 9 or 10 seed, and they beat Wisconsin without their best scorer too. So that game could have been a lot bigger margin than it actually was. But moving on next, I want to talk to you guys about some teams that are contenders or pretenders. What do you guys think or make of Baylor?
They are pretenders. When was the last time they actually did something in the March Madness tournament?
I have to agree because they haven't made it past, the second round in a long time, and they've had some pretty talented teams.
And that's where a lot of Cinderella stories start is through Baylor in the first or second round.
You are very correct on that one, and I just don't see a Scott Drew-led team getting past the third or fourth round.
Well, Baylor's 22-3, and I know that they've had some very limited success in March, but I can't take away from a 22-3 team.
Right, that's still an outstanding record, but their track record has not been good.
You may have to blame the coaching because coaches are put that maybe it's nerves when they get to the tournament, but overall I think they are not pretenders because you don't get to a record of 22-3 by fluke. But in the tournament itself, they have a history of being flukes. I don't know if that was the right word to use.
Yeah, I think that's a good word.
Yeah, That's a good word.
But overall, I don't think they're pretenders. I don't think they're going to go very far just because they're Baylor. But I would not call them pretenders.
All right, I think in the regular season they've been fantastic, but I think when tournament time comes, I think they're going to be pretenders. What do you guys think of Oregon?
They are contenders.
I have to agree.
That Pac-12 conference is stacked. You got Arizona in there. You got UCLA in there. And they're all UCLA
top
is
10.
They're mostly top 10, yeah. And if you're competing that well in the Pac-12, you are a contender for sure.
And Oregon has one player that stands out above the rest, Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks, ever since he's came back from injury the first couple weeks of the season, has been phenomenal. He's been maybe top 5 player in the nation, and he has carried this Oregon team throughout the entire season.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but did Oregon beat Arizona or UCLA or both?
They beat Arizona by like 30.
Yeah, and Arizona is ranked 5th, right above number 7 Oregon, and also above them is UCLA, who's number 6.
And going back to Northwestern, I know that it was a little bit off track, but looking at the index or the ratings index for Northwestern, they're in the top 40. I don't think you can leave them out. I know that was really random, but I don't think you can leave that out with over 60 field.
So are they contenders or pretenders?
Well, Northwestern, they're definitely pretenders. I'm just saying because we didn't mention that when we were talking about Northwestern. I thought that was a good point.
Yeah, Oregon actually beat Arizona by 27. And Arizona at the time was a top 10 team, and they have a top 10 player in Laurie Markkanen. And so I think Oregon is definitely a contender. We're going to have to go through this real quick. Wisconsin, pretender, contender.
They're a pretender. Ethan Happ can't do it by himself. I'm sorry.
I think Koenig steps up in tournament time just like he does every year, and I think they will get to the Elite Eight.
It depends if they do who steps up for the Wisconsin team, because if...
It has to be Koenig. I mean, he was shooting over 70% his first 6 games from three-point land in the Big Ten, and since then he's been shooting maybe 40% at best each game.
I'm going to have to go with Kyle. They're pretenders. Wisconsin, you can't run it through one player, and unless something happens, which I don't think it will.
Happens?
Okay, anyway. But unless something happens... I don't think they're going to get very far.
Real quick, Gonzaga.
That is a hard one because they're the number 1 seed right now, 26-0 right now.
In the worst conference in America.
Their track record shows they're pretenders.
I agree. I think it's so incredible to be 26-0. When tournament time comes, they'll be playing good teams that they realize that, oh crap, these teams are actually really good. So I think they're going to be pretenders.
I think they're going to be pretenders as well.
All right, now we're moving on to 3-Minute Madness.
All right. And we started this last week, and this whole segment is each of us get 1 minute to answer a question. It could be about anything. And I'll take it from here, I guess. And what do you think that the NFL's push to get teams to LA and Las Vegas were? What do you think of that? And, well, I do not like it at all. Here's why. To be honest, this team, you do not need teams in LA. Matter of fact, 2 teams in LA. I understand the business part of it. However, you do not need 2 teams in LA because that fan base in LA is just god awful. You do not build a fan base in Los Angeles. Matter of fact, you don't build a fan base in Las Vegas. They don't have citizens in Las Vegas. They have tourists at Las Vegas. Most of their money comes from the casinos, and you'll have some serious gambling issues if you put the Raiders in Las Vegas. And if you want to keep this NFL fan base loyalty going, you do not kick out a San Diego franchise that's been in San Diego for decades and just boot them out because they don't want to build a $2 billion stadium or something like that. And I'm okay. And St. Louis fans too. They've lost their team who's been there for 20 years, I would say. And however, if they lose their loyal fan base, then what's that look like for the NFL? The NFL is going down the drain, and nothing can fix that. I think Roger Goodell is ruining the NFL if they keep on doing these things where each NFL team goes to Los Angeles or Las Vegas.
That's a very good point, Kyle.
All right, so now Connor, for you is, what do you think about baseball's newest proposal to limit how long managers have to challenge plays?
Well, I don't disagree with it. I never really had a problem with it. I'm not one of those fans that timing really mattered to me. I just love watching the game. It can be 4 hours and I'll still watch it. I get why baseball's doing it. They want to speed things up, just like, pitching changes. But at the same time, I understand why it would be kind of annoying to have a manager going up, telling the umpire 1 second and standing at the top of the dugout stairs. So I do understand what they're doing, and they want the game to speed up so more fans will stay tuned into it, instead of saying, oh wait, there's March Madness going, that's spring training, oh wait, there's the NBA finals going on, and that's a horrible example because of course you'll go to the NBA finals. But overall, I do understand why they're doing it. I don't have really a problem with it, but the MLB is just trying to speed up the game, and nothing anybody says is going to stop that. And it's just something that not going to complain about. I don't think anybody should complain about it, and it's just the way it is.
All right, and for you, Mr. Maxwell Hess.
It's just Max.
I'm going to call you Maxwell anyway.
Maxie.
Why is Russell Westbrook not starting in the All-Star game for the West?
Because fans are not smart and they don't respect the best player in the game. Russell Westbrook is literally averaging a triple-double right now, leads the league in triple-doubles, and overall, to me, has just been the best player all year. I mean, everyone's so obsessed with Steph Curry and making threes and the whole Warriors team when honestly they aren't paying attention to what might be the best singular performance all season in Russell Westbrook. The last time someone has averaged a triple-double was Oscar Robertson in the 60s. And obviously, competition was weaker back then, and so the fact that Russell Westbrook is doing it now, and the fact that he's averaging 10 assists with a team that has no shooters is quite impressive, because sometimes he'd be triple-teaming the post and he has to pass to Andre Roberson. And Andre Roberson might be the worst offensive player in the league. And so Westbrook is doing this with no help, and he's just overall been the best player in the NBA, and I think he should be starting in the All-Star game.
And that was 3 Minute Madness, and we will take a 30-second commercial break, and when we come back, we are going to be talking about something I've been waiting quite a long time to talk about personally, and I think we all are going to enjoy it too. We will be right back here on the Hot Seat.
70 years of wildfire prevention. For safety tips, visit SmokeyBear.com. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state foresters, and the Ad Council.
Hello and welcome back to the Hot Seat. Once again, I'm Connor Fredlin with Kyle O'Reilly and Max Hess. And now we have something that I've been waiting quite a long time to talk about. And you guessed it, it is baseball.
And Connor, I know you're so happy about baseball is back. NFL's done. NBA is going through the All-Star break right now. It's time for baseball talk.
Something I can talk about without doing much research on.
Unfortunately, yes.
And you guys know this is going to be a long segment.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, I won't keep it that long yet. Anyway, so big news in the baseball world. Sorry, you St. Louis fans. Cardinals' Alex Reyes is to undergo Tommy John surgery. And I have a question for both of you. Is this the end of the Cardinals this year?
Oh, no. You never count the Cardinals out.
You can never count them out because the whole organization runs very well. And every year there's one player that comes up for the Cardinals who's supposed to not be so good but ends up being incredible. Like last year was Aledmus Diaz before he got hurt.
And then the infamous David Freese of 2011 who helped them win the World Series. Because someone steps up every year for the Cardinals. Us Cub fans, we get annoyed by it because we don't experience this until 2015.
And then they get a big contract, Jason Hayward, and don't perform.
Jason Hayward.
John
Lackey, David Freese, wherever he went, Los Angeles, and then the Pirates.
Yeah, who knows where he's at now. But anyways,
he's with the Pirates.
You never count the Cardinals out because a miracle happens in St. Louis that gets in the playoffs and eventually wins with the World Series.
And it's unfortunate that Alex Reyes, who is going to have a bright future.
He's a top prospect in the Cardinal system.
It's unfortunate that he's going to go undergo Tommy John surgery, but it's not a rare surgery for baseball players, and doctors know how to work with it.
And for Reyes, I think he can go as far as he might be the top pitching prospect in baseball, not just in the Cardinal system.
Well, you got the White Sox system. That's going to be very, very dangerous in the next year or so.
Cubs White Sox World Series 2019. Book it now.
I wouldn't go that far. We don't want a civil war to
Book
happen.
it.
But anyways, this Cardinals team they pull rabbits out of their hat.
It's really annoying, especially as Cubs fans.
Yeah.
But until last year when the Cardinals didn't make the playoffs.
But that was a fluke. I think that was a fluke because I'm surprised. Everyone was all surprised that Cardinals were not in the wild card. We knew that they're not going to win the Central, but the wild card, they were not in that, and that was a huge shock to us.
I wouldn't call that a fluke. I would just call them other teams outperforming them.
Well, honestly, I think Matheny's not the guy to run the show for the Cardinals, in my
Anymore.
opinion.
He can do everything right. That's the problem with this organization, and that's why they're so dangerous every single season, is that this organization is so well constructed. It's a well-oiled machine.
Unless they're going into other people's organizations and spying on them.
Okay.
Astros.
New England. Oh, anyway, but okay. I'm sorry. I always have to take a shot at New England, don't I?
Yeah, you do. I don't know why.
Astros, New England, same thing. Anyway, coming up, the next bit of news here is Jake Arrieta said that he's hoping to stay in Chicago and wants to get a contract extension before his free agency, which comes up in the next offseason. But Arrieta says that during the season he's not going to think about that too much, and the Cubs come first. So the story behind Arrieta. 2 seasons ago, Cy Young Award winner, sub 2 ERA. The next season, first half of the season, up to the All-Star break. Possible NL starting pitcher at the All-Star break. He was not, but
Maybe repeat Cy Young.
maybe repeat Cy Young. We all thought he was 12-0,
Something like
or
that, yeah.
12-2, something along those lines. But then he had a very difficult second half of the season, and then in the playoffs he performed. I don't think any game he pitched they lost
He was just above average, I would say.
in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Well,
He
no,
pitched
I'm
well enough to win games, which is all that matters.
Yeah.
which is exactly all that matters. Because I just remember, I think it was against the Dodgers. He had the it was against the Giants. He had six innings no hit baseball in the playoffs, which was gigantic for the Cubs, especially getting momentum in the series. But overall, Arrieta, he's up and down. I personally think he's going to have a bounce back season. Next season, I think he's going to have not a sub 2 ERA, but I think he's going to have maybe a 2.3, 2.4 ERA and be an 18-game winner.
I think if he stays under a 2.8 ERA, I think you call it a successful season, because he'll always have fantastic stuff, but it's his command that's usually off, which causes him to pitch poorly.
Well, Miguel Montero is staying with the team, which is a surprise to a lot of people, and that is Arrieta's catcher. Or so it was. In the World Series, actually, Contreras caught for Arrieta for the second game that Arrieta pitched. But we'll see how that affects it. Same thing with John Lester. David Ross is gone. We don't know how he's going to react.
Contreras will actually be his personal catcher this season, from what I've seen.
I mean, I think Contreras is going to be the personal catcher for everybody.
Via Bleacher Nation.
And then you got Schwarber, who's also going to be
That's-
pitching 1 to 2 times a week.
I know that's what they say. I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think it's
He
going to
came out
happen
of college
either.
as a catcher.
No, but he had an
I
ACL
know.
injury.
I do
You
understand
can't.
that.
You can't come back from an ACL injury and be a catcher and not expect some type of repercussions in your knee.
I'm not saying that he's going to be the full-time catcher.
No, I know. I'm saying that him as a catcher, I don't think it's going to be very good. Because first of all, if I remember correctly, when he came up as a catcher, he wasn't very good defensively.
Well, actually, in the minor league All-Star game, if I remember correctly, he threw 2 people out at second.
I mean, that's an All-Star game, and he was in the All-Star game for his bat.
But to throw out the best base stealers in the minor leagues is still pretty impressive.
No, I agree with that, but again, minor leagues, MLB. There is a huge difference, because the best minor league players that are in the minor league All-Star game are for that point, are at the level of average MLB players that probably won't steal as much.
Well, that doesn't take anything away from their speed, though.
No, I do understand that 100%. And overall, I think it's going to be an exciting season. But one thing, did you guys see Mike Trout's workout routine?
No, we didn't.
I actually did.
So, speak for yourself, Kyle.
I'm an Angels fan, and I do know that
This was ridiculous.
Yeah.
He was doing a full-on sprint with what looked like probably 200 pounds on his shoulders.
I think officially it was 125.
It was 125. It was ridiculous. And this shows why this guy's a multiple-time MVP.
Well, I mean,
He was the best player in baseball last year, not just the MVP of the AL, because there was another award after that that's between him and Bryant. Basically, you can give it to somebody else, but that wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And he won that award.
well, I mean, he's been the best player in baseball since 2012.
And he's on a bad team, the Angels, Kyle's team.
they're a horrible run organization. That front office is just horrendous. They cannot find a way to build some other guys for Trout to play with. You cannot build a baseball team around one guy. You can't not do that. But you got assets to the team, and they're not doing that. They bought Pujols. They
And
got
Freeze.
Josh Hamilton. But they didn't do anything. They just flatlined and just declined rock bottom. And this will be an organization that will not do anything for front office change happens, and even coaching changes.
Well,
What's going to happen?
Well, I think Mike Trout's got to go the LeBron way and be like, we need this player if we want to be successful.
Or he can go the LeBron way once he can, but it's going to be a while out.
Yeah, it's going to be a while because he just signed a new contract.
Which I don't understand why he would do that, because right now Los Angeles, they're not, yes, money but
talks.
he can get money somewhere else.
Yeah, well, I think if they don't have a winning record this year, I know it's not like him, but I think he requests a trade.
I don't blame him. It's the same thing with me. Like, I think Kevin Durant, and I know this is,
But the Thunder at least had a winning record.
Oh, but
And
they can't beat
playoffs.
the Warriors. If you can't beat them, join them. I agree with that statement. If Russell Westbrook went to him, that'd be fine with me. It's just like the rumors with Westbrook going to Los Angeles.
That's definitely not the same, but okay.
But joining some other players like Anthony Davis in Los Angeles, that's somewhat of the same idea.
That's more of a LeBron than a KD, though.
Okay, look, I agree. But overall, and then there are some others. There are some other spring training stories going on, mostly that we are going to discuss. It's mostly around the Cubs. What do you do with your starting three outfielders as of right now? Obviously, we don't know what the spring training is. In my opinion, it's going to be in left field. I think they're going to probably put Zobrist. I know that's surprising, but hear me out here. Center field, John Jay. We don't have a backup center fielder. Oh,
Almora.
Jason Hayward. Oh, well, Almora, but Almora, I don't trust him. I think he's going to be. I think there's a possibility he'll be in the minors.
I think we're
going
going to see how it rides out in spring training.
Do you think there's a possibility Almora is in the minors?
I think he'll start. I think he'll be like an Addison Russell, 2015. He'll start out at first month in the minors, then he'll come in the MLB and perform.
Because that's what I meant by they don't have a backup right now. Because I think Almora is a minor leaguer in my opinion still.
Or if they want to, they could put Bryant in left field and put Baez at third.
They could, but I think Baez is better at second.
Well, yeah, but
I think this is my predicted starting lineup for the Cubs. I'm not going to go in order 1 through 9, but I'm just going to say position. Left field, Zobrist. Center field, John Jay. Right field, Jason Hayward, who has been working his butt off this offseason.
he will bet 265 this year.
Okay, I'm going to up you. I'm going to go 270.
I guess I'll go 240.
Okay, Kyle. Kyle will probably be right, just knowing how things work out. But in third base, I have Chris Bryant because that's his position. I don't want him in left field. I know he can play it, but that is his position.
Great.
What about Schwarber?
Schwarber, he's going to be on the bench.
You can't put him on the bench after his performance in the World Series.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't. He had over 400 after missing the entire year except 3 games.
Okay, but
And coming into a high pressure situation where you're going straight into the World Series, coming off an ACL
you can
injury.
put him on the bench. Look, Kyle Schwarber, we used him as a DH. He's not a good fielder.
That's because he was coming off of an ACL
He wasn't
injury.
a good fielder before that.
It doesn't matter. You need his bat in the lineup.
He'll be in the lineup, but at starting off, I don't think there's any way you put him in because you're not going to take out Ben Zobrist's bat or Javier Baez's bat
You could take out John Jay's bat.
and put
Hayward in center.
Or you put
John Jay's. John Jay's bat is good.
Not as of late, though.
He batted, I believe, 280 something last year.
Then if you want to take out John Jay's bat, if you don't want to take out John Jay's bat, you can take out Hayward's bat.
Look, I love what Schwarber did in the World Series. I still think that we should have traded him.
I think we went the right route with trading Soler.
Okay, well, I get that also. Because Soler, he's not Schwarber. They have the same power, to be honest, but he's not going to hit the same average as Schwarber. But overall, Schwarber, he's an AL player. He's a DH. I don't think you guys can argue with me all you want, and that's perfectly fine because opinions are opinions. But Schwarber is a DH, and I don't know where you put him in the starting lineup. If he is in the starting lineup, I'm not surprised. I would not be surprised, but I don't think he deserves a starting lineup spot due to his defense.
And that's what spring training is all about, is you can work on stuff.
Yeah, and see...
Like catching or left field.
At the end of spring training, my opinion on this might be 100% different. I'm talking about judging by his rookie year.
I don't think you should base like one injury off of.
I'm not talking about the injury. I'm talking about before the injury.
How did he perform before?
He actually played pretty well in left
Do you
field.
remember the
until
playoffs?
The playoffs came.
And hey, that goes to your argument. How can you bench him when he did so well in the World Series? In a high pressure situation, his bat is good. It was clearly good in the postseason. You said, how can you not put him in the lineup because of how he did in the World Series performance? Look at how he did in the playoffs defensively his rookie year.
That was his rookie year also. He's had a lot. Do you realize he was a catcher all the way through the minors, and they put him in left field without him having any prior experience. So you got to give him an off-season chance.
Okay, look, at the end of spring training, we'll ask this question again, and my opinion may be a totally different. Your opinions could be totally different. But then last thing is, Kyle already said it. Kyle Schwarber will be catching part-time. I don't think it's a good idea, but we will see.
Just one to two times a week. That's all you need out of him. Just 1 to 2 times a week.
You have 3 catchers again. You don't need 3 catchers.
But didn't that system work?
It worked because David Ross was David Ross.
Just look at that championship ring and just answer that question.
All right. Well, anyway, we will be back in 60 seconds to go over some NBA news here on the hot seat.
Westbrook the steal. This could be fun. Westbrook the flush. Atomic athleticism from Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook 38, 14, and 12. Carmelo Anthony.
And you hear right there from just the other night, the Westbrook and the Thunder, well, really just Westbrook's come from behind win over the New York Knicks. And Russell Westbrook, we're going to talk about this because we want to talk about some All-Star basketball, which tonight is the celebrity game, the greatest part about the All-Star game. But Westbrook, he is a monster, averaging a triple-double. Max already mentioned that earlier. And it's just great. It's great to see. And him not being a starter in the All-Star game, that is a snub.
It's a blasphemy.
It's a blasphemy. Thank you, Max. That was a great word. Anyway, but overall, Russell Westbrook should be a starter in the All-Star game. I'm going to say that. I think we all should say that.
Yeah, we all agree. And Curry should be out.
Yeah, everyone keeps drinking Curry's Kool-Aid when Russell should be starting.
And I don't get why he's only in there because of the fan hype. He didn't get in there because the media or the other players agreed that he should be starting. It's because the fans are all hyped about Steph Curry and his shooting threes.
And three-pointers, let's be real. Three-pointers are amazing. Max and I know what we're talking about.
They're ruining the NBA. They are ruining the NBA because you're going to teach these kids, these youngins, these young bloods, that only thing you got to do is shoot threes. Don't worry about defense. Don't worry about any other aspects of the ball.
Hey,
just
it taught me that.
And a mellow ball.
Hey, no, it taught me that, and I was a very good scorer in high school.
Are you in the NBA, though?
Yes.
Are you in college basketball?
Yes.
Yeah, at the rec.
Hey, the rec, that's some really high-level basketball over there.
But I don't want my kids looking at Steph Curry saying, you know what, I'm going to shoot threes and I'll be in the NBA. It's other aspects of the NBA that gets you in the NBA.
There's not many fundamentals being taught.
Shooting is one of the most important parts of basketball, the fundamentals of shooting.
You're right, but it shouldn't be just three-pointers.
It's not, though. And I'm not arguing that Westbrook should not be a starter. I'm saying that Curry, he still knows the fundamentals.
But not defensively. That's why he's not in that late-game situations where they need a defense to stop. He's not in the game.
I get that 100%. But, okay, look, going back to Westbrook and what he's accomplished this year. Before we get to the All-Star, let's talk about the MVP race. Kyle, I know your opinion on this. I don't know your opinion. But here's the MVP race right now is coming down to 2 people. Well, 3 people. One person on the outside of looking in, which is Isaiah Thomas.
Okay, yeah.
But right now it's Russell Westbrook or James Harden. James Harden is averaging more assists than Westbrook, but he is not averaging a triple-double.
It's just separated by like a basket.
Like one assist.
No, the points. I think Harden has 29 points something, and Russell Westbrook has.
And the assists are separated by about 1 assist.
Yeah.
And I know Kyle, and I'm going to just say my opinion here, and then we'll go to Kyle and then Max. Here's what the problem is. You give the MVP to Harden, you're telling everybody in the league that if you average a triple-double, which is the hardest thing to do in a single game, let alone Westbrook, who looks to be having the most in a single season. He's on pace for that. If you're averaging a triple-double, I don't care if your team is good. I don't care if your team is bad. I think your team, you deserve that MVP award because nobody's done it since the 60s.
Yeah, I have to agree. James Harden is one of my favorite NBA players. I actually like him more than Westbrook personally. But you take Harden off that team, they still have shooters. They can still play well. But if you take Westbrook off the Thunder, they're going to be averaging maybe 80 points a game.
Because Westbrook, here's what they thought in the offseason. They got rid of Ibaka. Durant left. They brought Oladipo in, who was supposed to be this new, not Kevin Durant 2.0, but,
a solid scorer.
A solid scorer for Westbrook to score with, like Kevin Durant was. And Oladipo has not been stepping up to it.
He's underachieved, for sure.
And that could be a one-year thing. We know Oladipo has talent. We know he has talent.
Agreed.
But Westbrook, he doesn't have anybody. His backup point guard can't shoot a jump shot.
He couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat.
Payne. And by the way, before I go on with this, DJ Augustine, is he hurt?
I really don't know.
Because
Is he even on the Thunder though?
He was. Yeah, you check that. And Kyle, I know your opinion is that if your team has a better record and you have this two people together.
It's not if your team has a better record. Is if you help your team win games and you also perform well, you deserve the MVP. And that's why I think James Harden deserves the MVP more than Russell Westbrook. Because if you look at this, Harden and the Rockets, they're in third place right now, above Oklahoma City Thunder, who are sitting 7th place, above the Denver Nuggets, who are 25 and 31. So it's just a 7-man race in the Western Conference. However, James Harden, he's been helping his team more than Russell Westbrook. Yes, Russell Westbrook is the only guy on the team, and James Harden is also the only other guy on the team. But this is where James Harden has a one-up of Russell Westbrook. He has more assists, and he can shoot the ball better than Russell Westbrook.
1 assist. It's the same thing with your points.
Yeah, that's what my point is. It's going to be a close race, and there will be controversy when this final decision is done. But as of right now, my mind is on James Harden winning the MVP in midseason MVP. End of season MVP, I will still think it's James Harden because he helps his team win games more than Russell Westbrook.
But you have, I 100% get your point. I know there are people that don't get your point and won't even listen to your point. But overall, it's Russell Westbrook, their team's still over 500. Yes, they're the 7th place in the West. The West is not the East.
No.
Granted, there's a huge drop-off after the Thunder. But the Thunder are a team that I know it hasn't looked like it too much, but they're a team that can compete with the Warriors. They can compete. I say they can win 1 to 2 games in a 7-game series with the Warriors.
I'll give them one maybe, but the Warriors defensively are just as good as they are offensively, and so unfortunately, honestly, I think they're gonna let Westbrook do his thing as long as he doesn't get many assists. Because if they deny the ball to the other players on the Thunder, Westbrook can't get assists. So, in that case, I think Warriors sweep them. But that's just my opinion.
And you know what? Things happen. We don't know what's going to happen. It's like the Bulls being the 7th seed. They would be playing the Boston Celtics, who they shouldn't have won the game last night.
They shouldn't have.
Actually, under league review, they said the call was correct and that Smart got a tip of his elbow.
Well, yeah, but that's weak.
Yeah, it was a very weak foul
That's
call.
weak basketball right
I could
there.
touch you with a feather and that would be considered a foul.
Yeah, and you just can't call that with 1 second left in the game. You just got to let it play out.
It's like if there's a full court shot, unless you absolutely smack their arm, I mean,
You just let it go.
You let it go. But we'll get back to that in a second. And then even though who do you think will win the dunk contest, guys, on Saturday night?
We're in the All-Star break right now.
Yeah,
Derrick Jones Jr. from the Phoenix Suns.
Derrick Jones?
Jones.
Oh, somebody wrote Dones on the...
Oh, that must have been me typing that accidentally.
I know it's Derrick Jones. I'm just messing with you, Kyle. But anyway, Aaron Gordon, who I think is going to win because after what he did last year, if he can do anything even close to that, he's going to run away with this. Zach LaVine's not in it, and he's injured, but he wasn't going to be in it anyway.
I think Aaron Gordon gets this time. He gets
that's what I'm saying.
well-deserved slam dunk contest.
He deserved it last year.
I think it'll be a very close race with Jones Jr. and Gordon.
You know, one thing I do not want to see in the dunk contest this year, as Glenn Robinson and DeAndre Jordan are in it, but one thing I do not want to see is a free throw line dunk.
Or someone jumping over a car.
It's too easy now. We saw Giannis
did that in the game.
In game, do a free throw line dunk.
To be fair, he's like 7 feet tall, but
He's very
still.
lengthy.
But either way, and he looked like he barely was near the rim when he put it in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something we've seen too much. I'm more of a fan of the off the shot clock to yourself type of thing.
I want to see something like Dwight Howard did a couple years ago and dunk on a 12-foot hoop.
I didn't even find that impressive. I think it's impressive. I didn't find it exciting to watch.
I think if they include moves with it, then I think that'd be really
now
cool.
if Dwight Howard did a 360 and dunked on a 12-foot hoop, yes, that would be extremely
I think
impressive.
DeAndre Jordan's very capable of doing that.
I would hope. 7 feet tall.
But still, that's still
Yeah.
2 feet taller than an average
As
rim.
long as it's not a free throw, I'm sure he's capable of it.
Okay.
And then going on, trade deadline. Who will be moving? So Carmelo Anthony, Jimmy Butler, Okafor, Lou Williams, Brooke Lopez, and others. Here's my pitch on Jimmy Butler. I said this to Kyle yesterday. I think it was you.
Yeah.
That if Jimmy Butler, they played the Celtics last night, that was the number one team he was probably going to go to.
And he played very well.
He played very well, but if it was going to happen, it would have happened.
I still think there's a
You
chance
have two
because
front-
I think last night was Butler's audition for the Celtics, and I think he passed with flying colors. So I still think there's a chance that they trade him.
And I keep on saying this, but and the Celtics have 2 first-round picks coming from Brooklyn for this year and next year.
Bulls aren't tanking, though, Kyle. I'm sorry to tell you, they're not.
But if you're not going to do anything, you're not going to win championship in next year, or any years to come. Unless
You might
rebuild.
as well.
You might as well.
But then
they
again,
won't.
we have the worst front office in the league. So
And again, with my total idea on the Bulls, if they're not going to tank, I'm cheering for them. So I don't want Butler to go. Because you've seen. I know you guys don't agree with this, but
I understand where you're going.
You've seen what they do against good teams when they have full strength. They didn't have Dwayne Wade yesterday, and they beat the Celtics, who they would be playing in a 7-game series if the playoffs started
But
today.
it's not an excuse of why you lose to teams like the Suns and the
No,
Mavericks.
but that's been the case since Derrick Rose MVP year. They lost to really bad teams.
And if I read this correctly earlier, the Bulls are 6-1 without Dwayne Wade.
So let's trade Dwayne Wade.
Who will trade for him though? We won't get any good
cool.
assets
You
out
know
of
who
it.
they will. You know who will take
He's
him.
beyond his
The Cavaliers.
good old days.
The Cavaliers would take him.
Yeah, but who do we get from the Cavs? I
Korver.
wish.
Oh, speaking of Kyle Korver, before we go way into Bulls here, Kyle Korver, 7th player to reach the 2,003 point mark in NBA history.
Yeah, that's quite a feat for the Cavs for Korver because not many people have done it with just spot up shooting, and that's basically what Korver does because he never shoots off the dribble, unless it's like near half court in the Cavs arena.
And as time is running out here, we do want to talk about mainly Bulls. So really quickly, the Bulls were very close to acquiring Okafor, but they did not want to involve Denzel Valentine in that trade. Bad or good idea? Very quickly, I think we should just do one word. I'm gonna say bad idea.
That's a good idea.
Good idea for not trading.
Denzel Valentine still has a lot of potential left. He's only a rookie.
I think he does, but
He's not being utilized correctly though.
Okafor, I think you can't go wrong with it. Because Okafor definitely has talent.
Yeah, but he's not very good at getting boards. Like he's averaging 3 rebounds a game this year.
And matter of fact, he's also injury prone.
Yeah,
So is Valentine. Remember college?
true.
But Valentine in the D League, if that showed us anything, that was
He has potential.
He's got the talent.
Give him the chance.
Continuing to lose to sub 500 teams, is this but beat great teams? This phase, it's annoying, but at the same time, it's kind of hopeful if we're not going to tank.
I don't even think you call it a phase because it's been like that since 2010. I think it's called the Bulls way.
And I don't think it matters who's your coach is. I think it's just guard packs. It's just going to be there.
Yep.
Doesn't make any sense. I don't think the Bulls just have a mentality to beat sub 500 teams. So we're at the All-Star break. What would you guys call the state of the Bulls?
Mediocrity at best.
We don't know what's going on. That's the state of the Bulls right now. We don't know what's going on. Are they going to compete or are they going to rebuild? We don't know that.
Okay, and they are currently 7th in the East. And I would just like to say one thing here about the Bulls. Bold prediction for the Bulls here. I think they're going to finish the season 7 games over 500.
Yeah, I'd say that's very bold.
I'm sticking to my prediction, like I said in the beginning of the season, is they're going to be a 9th seed at best.
And I think they will trade Butler for either the 2017 or 18 picks because
both.
next year's draft will be very good as well.
So when we come back next week, you think Butler will be gone?
I hope so.
I really do hope so too.
Don't get me wrong. I love Jimmy Butler. I've liked him for a long time, but it's time for him to go. It's time for us to tank.
It's better for the franchise. You cannot think about Jimmy Butler as of now. You got to think about the franchise in the future. You got to start building these young bucks, these young bloods. You got to start building them up.
Well, okay, Uncle Drew. And, okay, so this has been a very, very somewhat, this has been a good show. We'll see you next week. This has been The Hot Seat. Again, Connor Fredlin for Max Hess, Kyle O'Reilly.
And follow us on Twitter at WIU Hot Seat.
And Facebook.
At Facebook at Hot Seat.
All right, thank you once again. This has been The Hot Seat.